How's it going, nerds? My name is Linkwood, and welcome to Depression Quest, an interactive non-fiction about living with depression by Zoe Corey, Patrick Lindsay, and Isaac Schrankler. Its emotional character is probably mostly indescribable, except as a sort of a double bind in which any/all the alternatives we associate with human agency, sitting or standing, doing or resting, speaking or keeping silent, living or dying, are not just unpleasant, but literally horrible. Depression Quest is a game that deals with living with depression in a very literal way. This game is not meant to be fun or a lighthearted experience. If you are currently suffering from the illness and are easily triggered, please be aware that the game uses stark depictions of people in very dark places. If you are suicidal, please stop playing this game and visit suicide prevention hotline to talk to someone. The goal of this game is twofold. Firstly, we want to illustrate as clearly as possible what depression is like, so that it may be better understood by people without depression. Hopefully this can be something to spread awareness and fight against the social stigma and misunderstandings that depression sufferers face. Secondly, our hope is that in presenting as real a simulation of depression as possible, other sufferers will come to know that they aren't alone, hopefully derive some measure of comfort from that. It goes without saying that because of the very nature of depression, it is experienced differently by every person who suffers from it. We aren't trying to say this is the best or most accurate representation. No, this is an amalgamation of the experiences of the developers and several people close to them. Many of the following encounters deal with issues such as therapy, medication, handling a love life, and reaching out to support networks. In reality, less than half of depression sufferers actually seek treatment for reasons such as lack of money, perceived personal failing, or public stigma. These things were included in order to touch upon as broad a range as possible, since all these elements can be important to sufferers of depression, though they will likely not be the experiences of most sufferers. It's important to recognize that not everyone with depression is so lucky. Many people with the illness don't have a lot of luxuries that we have in this game. We've written it in a way so that we can focus specifically on the illness, which becomes more and more difficult to deal with as the person who has it is less and less well off. This game uses audio as part of the playing experience. We encourage you to play with your sound on. Thank you for playing. I'm hesitant.
2 hours later.
And with that, I guess, let's get in. It is early on a Monday morning. You are a mid-20s human being. You have a significant other named Alex. What is this? You met Alex through a mutual friend a few months back. The two of you hit it off pretty well that first night, and after a series of initially awkward dates, you finally became a couple, much to your surprise and excitement. Alex is 3 months younger than you are, and is currently a student with a part-time job in a broad social circle. She also got a wide variety of interests, and oftentimes you worry that you might be too boring for her, but she's been good at trying to reassure you that she's happy with you. Your relationship consists of lots of nights and watching Netflix when you've both got time off work and she doesn't have classes, with the occasional social outing that she tends to have to talk you into attending. She tries to be understanding when you are in one of your moods, as she puts it, though you are starting to feel like she doesn't understand what it's like for you, and this is a source of tension in your relationship. Coupled with the reluctance to want to go to college parties, this feeds your worry of not being exciting enough for them. You're a mid-20 human being. You have a significant other named Alex, who you are rather fond of, and that you have been seeing exclusively for the past few months. The rest of your social circle consists of a variety of friends and acquaintances, some of whom you met at your day job, which is a little boring, but pays the rent. Social is made up of a few close friends, some of which you've known from high school and some of the jobs you've worked. Acquaintances reluctantly going to social events with Alex, and you keep in touch with a few friends of friends that you occasionally run into. You have several online friends that you talk to regularly that you feel less guarded with, possibly due to communicating from the safety of being behind the keyboard. You enjoy the low commitment of the friendships, since they don't expect very much of you other than to listen and share personal thoughts and experiences. Despite the low commitment, You feel fairly connected with these people and tend to be more honest with them than people you interact with in real life on a day-to-day basis. You feel incredibly nervous trying to make new friends on your own, and are very good at talking yourself out of going to unfamiliar places or larger social engagements, regardless of how much you may actually want to attend. Meeting new people stresses you out to a high degree. This is something you wish you could work past. You admit you have a bad habit of flaking on social engagements, even with longtime friends, and are puzzled as to why some days you just can't force yourself to go see these people that you really do care about. Those that have stuck around long enough to be that close with you understand this is the thing you sometimes do, and seem to more or less accept it, even though they chide you for it on occasion. However, you've had friends in the past give up on trying to maintain a friendship with you because of this trait. Taking your social anxieties as a personal slight, or eventually getting tired of trying to track you down all the time. You feel incredibly guilty about this, but are not quite sure how to change. What's our day job? You have a day job which you feel is really nothing special. You started on receiving minimum wage, but you've stayed around long enough to make enough to support yourself. The work is dull and unrewarding, and most days you feel like just about anyone could do it. You have a hard time relating to most of your coworkers, so you mostly keep to yourself and get the work done while you're there. There are one or two people you chat with, though you wouldn't consider yourself close with them. A lot of days lately, you have a really hard time getting out of bed and forcing yourself to go in. You're starting to wonder how long you can keep this up. You'd really like to find another job in your field of interest, but feel like you are underqualified every time you look at online job postings. Sometimes you think about going back to school, but you would be unsure how you'd be able to support yourself, and wonder if the degree would really help anyway. You'd like to be doing more with your life, as would your parents, but you're still in the process of figuring out what that means and how to go about it. You're one of the few people you know of whose parents never got divorced, but you do wonder if they still love each other sometimes. You have an older brother named Malcolm who has moved across the country with his wife to work a high-paying job. Every major holiday that you see him at, you feel a bit jealous and like the lesser kid, despite being generally happy to see him. You feel very ashamed of these feelings. Your parents genuinely care about you. This often involves inviting you back to your childhood home for dinner, though your mother thinks you never visit quite enough. But you get the impression they don't fully understand you. They want to see you to succeed, and don't know why you haven't gotten farther in your life yet because you're so smart and talented. Anytime you've tried to talk to them about your motivation issues, they tell you that the solution is simply to work harder or want it more. Your father is generally more forgiving of your lack of a career path, while your mother seems to think you're too smart to be in the position you're in. You know they love you, and that they're not bad people, but you really feel like a big disappointment sometimes. So far this is hitting pretty close to home. I'm like actually enjoying this. You're also dealing with motivation issues that sometimes make dealing with these things difficult. You feel like this is probably your fault, and on bad days can feel inwardly angry and down on yourself for being lazy, but you're not quite sure how you can break out of it, or how other people deal with these feelings and seem so very functional. You spend a lot of nights fixating on thinking about this, but never seem to do anything about it other than lose sleep. It's an unseasonably warm Wednesday evening. You spent the past several hours at work. The past week or so, you've found your job motivation flagging more so than usual. You've been in a fog practically all day today, simply going through the motions without realizing even what you've been doing half the time. Yet time seemed to be moving at half speed. You're so checked out that when your boss approaches you to tell you that it's dead and you can go home early, it barely registers. As you walk home, the streets hiss from the recent rainfall. You know that your significant other will be in classes until late, another couple hours at least. You briefly consider using this serendipitous solitude to catch up on that project you've been working on haphazardly for the past few months. A while back, you and some of your older friends went out to a bar went out at a bar catching up. After liquefying considerably more of your paycheck than was perhaps responsible, and ending up thoroughly in your cups, you open up to the only people you really consider yourself close to, and end up launching into a drunken tirade about the meaninglessness of your utterly menial job, and ultimately your own existence. Have never really seen you in such a state before. Your friends were briefly taken aback by your sudden, uncharacteristic outburst. One of your friends suggested that you get involved with your hobby on a more regular, long-term basis. I think that spending your energy on something you actually care about might help you to better cope with the shittiness of your 9 to 5. Although you were embarrassed that you let your guard down, you felt self-conscious at seeming to have single-handedly brought the mood down at the table. You convinced yourself on the cab ride home that maybe it would be worth trying out. You began on your project some months ago and have miraculously managed to keep at it, though your level of motivation and subsequent effort rises and fails considerably. Well, you were surprised when you started at how good it felt. Well, you were surprised when you started at how good it felt to actually work on something you were passionate about, although you found it hard to muster the energy to really care about even this. As soon as you think about the work that awaits you at home, you can barely feel the panic creeping. You could feel the panic creeping in from the back of your brain, unbidden. All you can think about is how incredibly far behind you are. The amount of work seems nothing less than insurmountable. By the time you arrive home and change out of your uncomfortable work clothes, the stress is weighing down on you like a heavy, wet wool blanket. Computer seems to be staring you down from your desk. You want to sit down and work, but the mere thought of trying to work sends your stress levels flying. More than anything, you feel suddenly absolutely exhausted. You feel a strong desire to simply hide in bed. Do you wish you grab a drink and hunker down for a minute of work? You're depressed, interaction is exhausting, you're becoming more and more withdrawn. You're not currently seeing a therapist, you're not currently taking medication for depression. Reluctantly, sit down on your desk and try to make yourself do something. Turn on the TV, telling yourself you just need a quick half an hour to unwind from work. Crawl on your bed, you're so stressed and overwhelmed that you couldn't possibly accomplish anything. Sit on our desk. Make a stop at your fridge, turn your favorite playlist on, and sit down to start working. You open the last file you were working on, and see as soon as your hand touches the keyboard, your mind goes blank. All the motivation and ideas you had when you arrived home vanish in a flash. Your brain seizes up, and you find yourself physically incapable of any sort of productive thought. You take a break to loosen up, pop into your email box, Twitter, and various other internet-based distraction fodder. Frustratingly, this pattern continues throughout the course of the evening. As soon as you try and focus on work, your brain diverts all its energy away from the task at hand. While you keep flipping back to your work, you find the sheer mental effort involved in keeping your brain focused is overwhelming and tiring. A few Twitter arguments, YouTube videos, and sparse amounts of actual work later, your playlist flipped back to track 1 and the ice in your glass is all but melted, diluting the last dregs of the coke you were nursing. You look at the clock and realize that the last few hours have passed since you sat down to work, and you've made negligible progress. I can just wake up early tomorrow and catch up, you think to yourself as you climb into bed. No, you know that never actually happens. You're very depressed, you spend a large amount of that sleeping, hating yourself, and very little energy and motivation. I feel like this is enough reading for like the first episode, but I feel like I want to go on with this and I want to beat it and see what the ending is for you guys. And we can basically take this test into Depression Quest, an interactive non-fiction about living with depression. And we can basically take a ride together, and we can look into the mind of me and everybody else who has bad depression, you know? Hope you have a great day, know you're beautiful, and I hope this was an opening, more of a thinking process for you, and will be as this Let's Play continues, of us delving into a mind of depression sufferer. Probably a better term.
She call me Mr. Bombastic, tell me fantastic. Touch me on me back, she says I'm Mr. Romantic. Call me fantastic, touch me on me back, she says I'm Mr. Smooth. just like a silk. Soft and cuddly, hug me up like a quilt. I'm a lyrical lover.